jerkbait. What's up, y'all? Back in the garage. Kind of wanted to jump into a top 5 fall baits video, and then if this does well, if you guys like this kind of content, maybe I'll continue doing this throughout the seasons, so into winter, spring, so on and so forth. But yeah, just doing a top 5. I'll probably break it into a few videos just so they're not too long, but I'll go a little bit in depth into certain techniques that I like for this season, the rod and reel setup, the line, the areas that I'm fishing these baits in, and just all the ins and outs, so that if you guys want to use these same techniques, you can take everything that I'm sharing and go out and catch fish. So the first one I'm going to start off with, just because this is one of my main confidence baits in the fall time. If I need to catch a fish, this is the bait I'm going to throw. The jerkbait, suspended jerkbait to be specific. And so to start out, just for anybody who's not familiar with what a jerkbait is, basically it's a long, slender profile. They range in size, but the average size is probably like 4.5 inches. But they make smaller ones, they make big ones, but the standard size is, yeah, that 4-inch range. And they've got a small lip, kind of like a crankbait. It's a rounded lip, so these baits dive down to whatever depth, and then although you can like reel them and they'll swim a little bit, the main purpose of these baits is to jerk them or rip them, and they have a darting action. And so for me, I like to use these baits to imitate the shad and the silver sides and whatever bait fish that the bass are chasing this time of year. They'll get, as the water cools, those bait fish will get kind of bunched up, and the bass are looking to feed up, to put on the weight for the winter, just because as the water gets colder, they move around less, they kind of hibernate. I mean, they'll still feed, but they don't want to expend as much energy, and so the fall time is the best time for them to pack on the food. And the jerkbait's a great way to imitate those bait fish. And so I like to target points, I like to target steep rocky banks, I like to target grass lines, like the backs of pockets where the bass will be pushing bait up into. Those are all good areas to throw a jerkbait, and really anywhere that you're seeing the bass chasing bait fish is a good spot to throw a jerkbait. And then in terms of how to fish it, I generally just make as long of a cast as I can, get that bait out there. You want to reel it down to like the target depth, so wherever you're seeing fish on your graph, or wherever you're kind of assuming that they're going to be at, you want to reel that bait down, and then you want to start to retrieve. And usually this time of year I'm working it pretty fast, and so it's kind of a rip pause, rip pause, and keeping those pauses pretty minimal. I'm not letting it sit for too long. I'm keeping that bait moving and just having it dart all over to entice those bass, get them to chase. And that can also fire up the schools. If you're letting your bait sit too long, they're going to be looking at it, and they might not take a shot. But if you keep that thing moving, it's looking like a fleeing bait fish, usually they'll lash out, and you can get multiple fish trying to eat your bait at the same time, and then you catch one, you throw back in there, you get one on the next cast, and just keep that school fired up. In terms of the baits that I like to use, there's a handful that I like. For sure, the industry standard the go-to is the Megabass Vision 110. It comes in multiple sizes, the junior or just the standard 110, and then you can get it in the +1 or the +2, which are the deeper diving jerkbaits, in case your fish are a little bit deeper. Say you're fishing like a steep drop off on a point, or the fish are suspended out over deeper water. You can use that +1 or that +2 to get down a little bit deeper. The Jackall Rerange is a good jerkbait. It's got a pretty good erratic action. It's got a weight transfer system, so it casts good. And they've got some nice colors. Jackall is a solid brand. The Lucky Craft Pointer 100, I believe, the Pointer SP, is a standard. It's one of those throwback baits that guys have been throwing forever. That thing catches fish for sure. A newer one that came out in the past few years that I've started to use a little bit more is the Shimano World Minnow. It's got this flash boost, kind of this, it's like a moving foil piece in there that shines, and so when you pause that jerkbait, that thing will just keep quivering, and that can be a trigger for the fish sometimes. And then in terms of color, obviously I'm imitating bait fish, and so it's predominantly like white tones, pearls, stuff of that nature, but you can get, there's some variation based on like water clarity and stuff like that. So in clear water situations where you've got like 3+ feet of visibility, probably maybe 4 feet plus, I like to go with those translucent colors. Just something like an MB Gizzard. It's pretty much see-through. It's got olive back, but it's very natural. There's not a lot going on. It doesn't stand out so much. And then in situations where you've got maybe a little stain in the water, maybe 3 feet or less visibility, you could go with something more solid. This is a MB Sexy Shad, so it's a pearl white base. It stands out a little better. And then you've got kind of for those low light periods, maybe you got an overcast day, and once again the water's a little more stained, you could throw like a matte. So Megabass has a lot of these matte colors, and some other companies have some of those matte colors, and it's just a little more solid when you need a little more presence in the water. Those more ghosty colors are good when the water's clear and you don't want to be too flashy, but sometimes you need to stand out, and that'll get you more bites. So just having a variation of colors. And then also you can throw in something like an Elegy bone or a French pearl, something that has a lot of color. So Elegy bone has like that chartreuse belly. I don't know if oh yeah, I've got it in here in my box. You can see that chartreuse on the bottom is good when sometimes you just need an extra trigger to get those fish going, and that chartreuse can be can be the ticket on some tough days when they don't really want to eat anything else. Okay, so I talked about color. Let's get into the line, which definitely is important. It's important, one, for like the depth that you're getting your bait down to. The heavier the line, the shallower your jerkbait's gonna run. So if you're fishing over grass or wood, you might want to bump up your line size and keep that bait higher in the water column. Or maybe you're trying to get your bait to its max depth, you want to fish a little bit lighter line. So generally I'm running 12-pound test fluorocarbon, but I will go down to 10 if I need to get that bait deeper, like I said. Or if the fish are a little line shy, if it's super clear water, go down to 10, and then go up to like 14 in those situations where I'm around grass or I just want to keep that bait a little bit higher up. But always fluorocarbon, pretty much strictly straight fluorocarbon. That's what I like to run. I know some guys will do braid to a fluorocarbon leader, but I'm making long casts. I don't want to have to worry about that leader knot, so I just run straight fluorocarbon. And then on my rod, I got 2 rods that I'll link in the description. All this stuff I'll link in the description: line, baits, rod, reel, all that stuff. But the 2 rods that I like to use, the first one that I started out with was the Megabass Levante Jerkbait Special, which is a 611 medium, I believe. And so it's got a crisp tip, so you're able to jerk that rod without having so much bend, but then the rod is pretty soft, so when you hook those fish on those small treble hooks, you're not going to be pulling them out of their mouths. So you want to make sure that you have a soft enough rod to play those fish and not be pulling the hooks out, but you want to have a crisp enough rod that when you're jerking it, you're not going to be just fighting against the rod if it's too soft. And the other rod that I like to use that's more recent is the Shimano Expride 610 medium. Anybody who watches tactical bassing videos, that's the rod that they swear by, and I can see why. It's pretty much the perfect jerkbait rod. If it's in your budget, it's a little expensive, over 200 bucks, but it gets the job done for sure. And if it's not in your budget, if you want to go way down, the Shimano SLX 610 medium it's got a similar action, but it's a lot cheaper. Not as refined, obviously, but if you're just looking to get into jerkbait fishing, that's a good budget option. So I'll link that one in the description also. And then in terms of the reel, always like to go with a high-speed reel, just because a lot of times when you're pausing the bait, you'll get a bite and they're eating it on slack line, and so if they're coming at you, they're putting even more slack into your line. You want to have a fast reel so that you can pick up that line and get those hooks penetrated into their mouth. So the gear ratio is really the most important thing. Use whatever brand you like. I run all Shimano, so I've got the Shimano Curado 70 MGL. So a smaller reel kind of balances well with that smaller, lighter rod, and it's got enough line capacity to cast those jerkbaits as far as I need to. But yeah, I mean, that's the quick rundown of jerkbaits. You can definitely get a lot more in depth with it, but I just wanted to give a quick rundown of the jerkbaits that I like, the setups that I use, and the areas that I like to fish them. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. I'll probably do an on the water jerkbait video at some point, but look out for those next 4 baits for that top 5 fall baits, and then going into winter we'll have another top 5. But hopefully you guys like the new series. Appreciate all the support, and catch you on the next one.